Hello, CUBE community, and welcome to the sunny Silicon Valley. We're here for a CUBE exclusive at Equinix Analyst Day. My name's Savannah Peterson. Delighted to be joined by one of my favorite fellow analysts, Bob Laliberte. Bob, this is our first outing together in your networking land, my newer networking land. Very exciting day for us.
It is. It's a very good day.
What has stood out to you the most? I know you and I have chatted about a lot of different things.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things. I mean, one of the things that's first and foremost is the emphasis on the network. Being a networking person for the last 20 years or so, it's great to see organizations recognizing the importance of the network. And we've seen that in a number of the announcements that Equinix had today, and between their fabric intelligence, even more important, and the whole theme of this, which is the distributed AI. So we always knew that the training environments would be located in large data centers, and we know that Equinix plays in that as well with their xScale and so forth. But now, as inferencing takes hold, I think one of my favorite stats is that 90% of the world's population is within 10 milliseconds of an Equinix data center. And so when you translate that,
It's really compelling.
it's very compelling, especially if it's not only just the people, but it's also devices, right, machines and so forth that have that proximity. Then suddenly Equinix has a real opportunity to really take advantage of their, not just from a real estate perspective, but from a technology perspective, to enable all that inferencing that'll go on at the edge.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good point, Bob, especially when we're thinking about the proliferation of AI-enabled edge devices. We're going to be having workloads even farther out on the fingerlings of every network and mesh and fabric in this case. So your point is a really good one. You also mentioned something there that I think was pretty compelling that we heard earlier today, an evolution from traditionally more of a real estate company to a technology company. What's that about that to you?
Yeah, I think for me, we've seen a lot of the moves over this year. They've appointed a new chief digital engineer and innovation officer and so forth, and a lot more emphasis on enabling AI in those distributed environments. And so when we come and talking to them, it's not just about here's where we have our data centers in these locations. That's obviously core to what they do, but it's more about the connectivity. It's about the, I guess, technology that they're starting to put, the AI that they're going to put on top of it. But it's also about how they're also working to enable organizations to adopt AI. And so they've got, I think, close to a dozen of these global AI labs that they're setting up. And through their ecosystem of over 2,000 partners, they're now working together to let organizations come in and test out those environments, right? You hear so much about these AI initiatives that don't make it. They don't deliver any business value. Well, they're ostensibly giving organizations the opportunity to test that out, prove it out in their labs, and then be able to roll it out in their facilities on a global basis. And so I think it puts them at a really unique position to be not only the provider of the digital infrastructure and all the connectivity, but also the necessary, I would say, I guess maybe you'd call them blueprints, to help accelerate the adoption of that AI and their edge environments.
I think you bring up a really good point there. I think it's a huge challenge, and one that is only going to become even more complex over time. You mentioned that global reach. Something that really stood out to me today were two things. One, the incredible market penetration that Equinix has in certain nations. Singapore, for example, 80% of their economy running through Equinix every day. Yeah. That is wild. I also thought it was interesting to note how their growth strategy varies based on region. So in certain cases, it makes sense to partner with someone like Grok in Helsinki with their inference. In other scenarios, like in South Africa, they felt they could go into the market themselves. And in other scenarios, they're buying companies that allow them to have that visibility and prominence within the market. And I think as we were joking of it at lunch, you know, the Intel inside, who's going to be the Intel inside of this revolution? Yeah. Equinix is positioning themselves to be that connectivity, that boundless connectivity that we hear about a lot.
Yeah, I think it's certainly the boundless connectivity is there, right? They've had that, their backbone, the ability to get data from one location to the other. I think they're starting to also integrate with some of these data fabric companies that are allowing organizations to, you know, you don't have to consolidate the data everywhere, but you need to have that high performance, low latency network to be able to collect it from anywhere to deliver it somewhere for inferencing or training. And so I think they're really taking a lot of strides to position themselves for the AI era. And again, this goes back to the initial thing where a lot of people still look at them, especially investors, as a real estate company. And we're starting to look at them more as this technology company that's going to help drive the next phase of AI, which is that inferencing. And I think the other cool part is that because different geos will accelerate their AI adoption and their maturity at different paces, it gives them the opportunity to see what's going on in one geo in a specific vertical or not, and then be able to help organizations in other geos replicate that. And again, it's all about, in any maturity model, it's all about finding out what those obstacles are, being able to overcome them with the partners that you have, and then being able to ensure that the next ones who adopt that don't hit those same hurdles and hence accelerate their adoption. So I think Equinix has really positioned themselves very well to enable this next phase of AI. I mean, they're already participating in the first phase, which is the training with the X scale.
Right.
So they don't maybe get a lot of credit for it, but those are all full.
They're humble, as we've talked about a lot. They're a humble team.
Correct.
That I think does a lot more, empowers a lot more than most people realize.
Correct. Like I said, they're leveraging the real estate that they have to take advantage of this massive technology transformation that's going on with AI. Again, quietly playing this role in the training, but have a significant opportunity in the inferencing space, especially as it comes to the edge fabrics and so forth that they're doing. And I think they're also now showing the innovation that they have internally and adopting and rolling out the fabric intelligence and having AI, so natural language, so essentially talking to your computer to get it to do what you want Equinix to do. And so I think as we continue to see those roll out and more of that innovation, I think, when we're seeing this, AI is enabling organizations to innovate at a much faster pace. So what I'm expecting, it's great to hear everything they're doing now, but what's going to be even more exciting is how they're able to continue this accelerated pace of innovation to deliver more solutions to their customers themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And how they're going to keep pace. When you're a real estate company, it's a slightly different cadence than when you're a technology company.
Absolutely.
So I'm super curious to hear that. Two things that I thought were really kind of noodle-worthy today that struck a chord with me was, one, to your point about geography and getting that preview or helping other geographies roll out their AI implementation. It's also vertical based as well. They get that same visibility across different verticals. I think we'll see a lot of their advice playing true in different verticals. But one thing that's come up today that I think is we should be talking about more, frankly, is how we keep AI safe and how we regulate that. And they said something really interesting in our regional presidents meeting earlier today, where they said that nefarious actors tend to opt out or not necessarily be a good customer fit for Equinix, which is great for their legal team. But on the flip side, I wanted to dig in there a little bit more because I'm curious as to why. Do you have any idea why they might do that?
Very interestingly, I don't have any details, obviously, about why they would necessarily self-select out. But I think organizations
Haven't interviewed them.
haven't talked to any of the black hat hackers to find out why they don't use. But I mean, I think what it speaks to is the fact that came out clear in that session with all the group vice presidents, or group presidents, I should say, was the fact that they're all acutely aware of the different regulations in each of the countries that they operate in and the frameworks that are being developed around AI. And so they're taking the approach of making sure that they're compliant with those regulations and frameworks. And so just by the nature that they're doing those steps and they're not turning a blind eye to it would probably be enough for most of those nefarious actors to say, yeah, we don't belong here, because they're actually reporting. They're looking, right? They're taking the steps to ensure that type of stuff does not happen in their environment. So I think, and obviously that's a great thing. The hard part is there are no global standards for this, for whether it's data privacy, whether it's sovereign data regulations and so forth. So unfortunately, it comes down to working with Equinix is certainly on a global basis. You're going to be able to leverage their expertise in working in all those in those countries, understanding what those local regulations are.
Relationship.
Correct.
Been around for almost 3 decades. This isn't a startup that we're talking about. It's a very different ecosystem.
Correct. Very different ecosystem. And I said they've got the experience, they've got the knowledge of how to operate in all these varied geographies. They understand and can bring that knowledge to bear when they're working with their clients.
Yeah. And they've got over 10,000 customers distributed all across the world. they're even bringing us a whole bunch of customers today that we get to interact with, which is really nice. I feel they've done a good job of letting their customers get out in front and tell the story versus, waving their fists and telling us how great they are. I love this story with Sataris. Vinay is an amazing founder, but also modern data lakehouse can provide a lot of resources in our AI future and really help customers realize that business value. I freaking hate that MIT survey that came out. It's, we heard it mentioned a lot today. You referenced it. First of all, I don't think people knew what a good experiment was when they started doing these experiments, of which 95%, quote unquote, didn't realize business value. Well, if you do the wrong thing to begin with, it's not going to succeed. So I think there's a lot there. And I also think that we're not companies who are being very, very successful with certain AI instances are not necessarily elevating that because they don't want their competition to know that they're doing it.
Yeah, I think those are two great points. I mean, certainly, like I said, a lot of people view it as a competitive advantage. And I think the other way to look at it as well is because it's such early days in AI, starting and failing isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
Because you've started. Right. And that's better than those who haven't started.
Right. And then at least you've got some architecture infra in there.
Correct. And I think that's what we're starting to see now. Obviously, there's certain areas where we're seeing tremendous value from AI for programmers and things like that, for marketing teams and so forth. So it's not going away. And so organizations, it's really incumbent upon them to start their AI initiatives and get out, or they are going to be left behind, right? I was at a conference and they said that there's going to be no AI fast followers, right? Meaning you're either not going
to be a business or...
Correct.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what we're seeing. And again, that's where, as we started this conversation, that transition for Equinix to be able to enable organizations to accelerate their adoptions, because they're getting to see all these organizations globally deploying AI. And the great part is we're going to get to talk to their customers today and hear the value that they're achieving. We'll see if it's more than 5%. Right.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it will be.
I think that's a hot take and good analysis, Bob. I think you might be right.
And so I think, and again, it's all about then translating what they've done for other companies to enable other organizations to get there and get there faster. Yeah. And so essentially when I think about Equinix today and them moving forward, it's really about being that trusted advisor for their AI inferencing initiatives and being able to break that down in many cases on a per use case, per vertical basis.
Yeah. So what would be your advice to them today?
To the customers?
To Equinix.
To Equinix, I would definitely say they definitely need to amplify those customer wins, demonstrate that organizations are getting value from AI, business value from AI, be able to highlight what those are across the different verticals and the use cases. Because again, it's not a binary value from AI or not. It's going to be on a use case basis, right? You're going to start with something simple and move to more complex. But I think by being out there and sharing those stories where they can, even if it's anonymously, by different types of verticals, I think that's really going to help organizations understand. And it also positions Equinix as a leader in that space, as a thought leader, and also as technically a leader as well for helping them to accelerate their AI initiatives.
Absolutely. I think that's well stated. And I think it also provides the opportunity for them to illustrate the breadth of solutions they provide as well. I think people know them as a anchor painkiller in a lot of ways, but not necessarily the full swath of colors and solutions that they have on the menu here. Wow, it's been really fun to hang out with you.
Absolutely. Same here. Thanks, Savannah.
This is a joy. And thank all of you for tuning in. We're in the beautiful Silicon Valley. We are at Equinix Analyst Day. My name's Savannah Peterson. You're watching theCUBE, the leading source for enterprise tech news.